Hello, Alkai. My name is Kender, and today I'm presenting also on behalf of my co-author Katta Spiel some common pitfalls of participatory design, based on both our experiences working on participatory design project with marginalized folks, as well as our experiences reviewing work in this area. Hi everyone, I'm Kay Kender, a representative of a well-meaning HCI research lab, and I'm excited to present to you today our new assistive technology, FaceSavr, a technology that we have participatorily designed with people with Allism to protect them from emotion echolalia. For those who don't know, Allism Spectrum Disorder is a debilitating neurological condition that impairs a person's social, communicative, cognitive, and behavioral function. This often leads to marginalization, including in the development of technology. The aim of our participatory design project, therefore, was to empower people with Allism through technology that supports their needs and makes it easier for them to function. We noticed that many of the pitfalls we became aware of are paradoxical. One common thing is, in a disability context, to claim to embrace the social model in theory, but then presenting disabilities as a deficit and a problem to be fixed. So the message is weirdly twisted. There's nothing wrong with you, but actually there is. So the experience of participants is often pathologized, and the aim of the project really is to fix problems caused by their disability. One of the greatest problems for people with Allism is emotion echolalia. So people with Allism experience emotions differently in a social context. Instead of their own feelings, they mirror those of people around them, echoing the emotions of multiple others. This is called emotion echolalia. Emotion echolalia is a traumatizing experience for people with Allism Spectrum Disorder. It is dangerous to themselves and those around them, as it is the top cause of the formation of mobs and hate groups. People with Allism Spectrum Disorder often are unaware of this and cannot autonomously control this behavior. Our aim was to create a technology that empowers participants and enables them to fulfill their full potential despite their Allism Spectrum Disorder. This means that we had to see ourselves not as designers, but as equal partners in a creative process. We are the heroes. Participants are depicted as sufferers in need of help, which obviously can come only from us, the designers who are here to save the day. It's all thanks to us in our great PD process. No thanks to participants' agency or experience or abilities. So we are here to empower them, which implies that obviously they cannot do so themselves. Here you can see a table featuring our 8 participants. So what's very typical for Allism here is that they all enjoyed social and superficial activities and seemed to have a grading system for stuff like weekdays. To us, it was essential to treat them as equals in the design process. This was, of course, challenging since we had to offer supportive structures like socializing breaks and deal with their incessant small talk, which are both Allistic behaviors that can be quite frustrating to work with. More paradoxes are revealed in how we see participants whose marginalized attributes we do not share. On the one hand, when presenting our work, we emphasize how weird and different participants are to us, and by assumption, everyone else engaging with our work. On the other, when conducting workshops, we often try to find too many commonalities. When difference is ignored, this often also leads to workshop structures that are not really oriented around participants. We also faced other challenges during the PD process. For instance, although we provided the usual material like drawing and crafting supplies, participants were unable to interact with this, and they also had difficulties understanding the goal of the design process. Some of them kept insisting that they enjoyed emotion echolalia and it was a core part of their being. So it was hard for us to make them understand what we were trying to do here. Due to all these challenges, we had to rethink our design process. And we've actually developed a set of guidelines about how to conduct PD processes with people with Allism. We've published on this elsewhere. Many of the pitfalls I've so far described are also reflected in the way we assess our own process, an assessment we often don't get participant feedback on. It's reflected in how we write and speak about participants, and it's reflected on what we deem to be challenging in the workshops. So although we were faced with so many challenges, we have successfully finished the project. I present to you the final outcome, FaceSavr. So FaceSavr is a textile wearable that assists users in focusing on their own emotions. It is a textile faceware featuring an integrated display and audio transmitters. Through emotion recognition, it detects whether users are feeling a positive or a negative emotion and enforces this emotion through visual and auditory effects. At the same time, it also protects users from outside stimuli. So this is what a social situation with FaceSavr would look like. You can tell from the body language, which is something that people with Allism like to use, that everyone is experiencing a different emotion. Paradoxically, attempts to shift the work and the burden of marginalization often backfire, and we actually end up adding to the workload. So often the outcome is something participants do not want and will not use, and it will have no lasting impact. And this can happen even if we're aware that it's happening, because sometimes the constraints of project stakeholders or publication necessities or our own agendas, even careers, are prioritized. A typical example of this within an HCI context would be forcing digital technologies into something where a non-digital artifact would be absolutely enough, but hey, it has to be HCI. As we sadly did not have enough resources or time to test the product, we relied on a short feedback session with a select few of our participants. And here's some of the very promising feedback we got. So we can see from this that participants are finally reflecting on the way they feel and their own emotions in a situation. They're saying they're frustrated, they're saying they're annoyed, they're engaging their own emotions. Our own agenda can also lead us to not listening to participants and consciously or unconsciously misinterpreting or misunderstanding their perspectives. We may think we know better and not allow participants enough say, so we might end up imposing our agenda by force and influencing participants, for instance, by encouraging or discouraging them from choices or actions during the workshops. Unconsciously or not, we may then end up presenting these choices or actions as if they were autonomous. FaceSavr's success shows the potential of empowering people with Allism through digital technology and inclusive design processes. We are often really genuinely trying to affect change and support justice. But because of this, we often also think we don't need supervision, because we see ourselves as the good guys or the guys trying to do the right thing. We often really don't want to face what's not so good about us and our work. We believe that satire can work as a mirror to engage our shortcomings, and that humor, such as by exaggerated examples or aberration, is a very effective way of reflecting and criticizing what is often overlooked or hard to put into words. We also think giving pitfalls very descriptive names helps keep them in mind. Because we are writing from our own experience, this means that ours is not a complete list. It's more like a work in progress, our own reflections. We hope it will be continued by others. Thank you for your attention and have a great time at the rest of the conference.